Hello and welcome to L&M Learning. Today we're going to talk about tissues. I want you to think about something for a moment. Right now, inside your body, millions of cells are working together in teams. Some are carrying oxygen, some are sending lightning fast signals to your brain, some are holding your bones together, and some even storing fat to keep you warm. But here's a question. How do all these tiny cells know exactly what job to do? How can something as hard as a bone and something as runny as blood belong to the very same family? And even more surprising, why is majority of a tall living tree actually made out of dead cells? So by the end of the session, you'll know the answer to all of these questions. You'll start to see your own body and every plant around you as an incredible team of tissues. So let's take a look at what we learn in this chapter. What a tissue actually is, the two big families of tissues, that is plant tissues and animal tissues. In plant tissues, you'll get to know the different types of plant tissues and what each one does, and the four different types of animal tissues in your very own body. And we'll take a look at all of this through simple everyday examples that you will see around you. Your body is made of trillions of cells, but cells don't work alone. They work in teams. A tissue is a group of similar cells that have a common origin and perform a common function. For example, all the cells that carry messages in your body work together as nervous tissue. Did you know the study of tissues is called histology? It comes from the Greek words histos meaning tissues and logos meaning study. And here's something important to note. Tissues are found in all multicellular organisms, whether it's plants or animals. Now let's take a look at the analogy of a tissue. Imagine a single brick. On its own, one brick cannot do that much. But put many bricks together in an organized way and you get a very strong wall. In this case, the single brick is like a cell and the wall is a tissue. So let's talk about plant tissues first. Plant tissues come in two main types: meristematic tissue or the growing tissue, and permanent tissue, the tissue that has finished growing and taken up a fixed job. You can take a look below at the different types of plant tissues. Meristematic tissue. Have you noticed that a plant grows taller from its shoot tip and grows longer from its root tip? That's because the tips contain meristematic tissue. The cells have one special power. They keep dividing to make new cells. That's how a plant grows. Think of it like this. Meristematic tissue is the plant's construction team, always building new parts. It's found in three places: at the tips, apical; at the base of leaves and branches, intercalary; and along the sides of stems and roots, lateral, which makes the plant thicker. Once these cells stop dividing and settle into a fixed job, they become permanent tissues. Now let's take a few functions of meristematic tissues. It acts like a parent from which other tissues develop. It takes part in growth by forming new cells, and it also helps to increase the length and girth of a plant. You can now pause and take a minute to review the various characteristics of meristematic tissue. Permanent tissue. Permanent tissue is formed when meristematic cells stop dividing, grow to their full size, and take on a fixed shape and functions. These cells have lost the power of division, may be living or dead, and form the bulk of the plant body. Permanent tissue comes in two groups: simple tissues made up of one type of cell, and complex tissue made up of more than one type of cell. Let's now look at simple tissues. The first is parenchyma. These are living cells with thin walls, loosely packed with spaces between them. Their job: packing, support, and storage. Let's take a real-life example. Cut open a potato. That soft, starchy part storing food is largely parenchyma. The juicy pulp inside of your fruits that you eat is parenchyma too. And when parenchyma cells contain the green pigment chlorophyll, they help the plant to make food through photosynthesis. We call this Sclerenchyma. Next is Collenchyma. These are living cells, but they're thicker at the corners. Their job is to give flexible support, strength with bendability. Let's look at an example. Think of a young plant stem or a stalk of celery. It can bend with the wind without snapping. That flexibility comes from Collenchyma. And the third is Sclerenchyma. Unlike the first two, these are dead cells with very thick and hard walls. Their job is to give hardness and rigidity. Let's take a real-life example. The hard, fibrous husk of a coconut, the tough shell of a nut, and the gritty bits you sometimes feel when you eat a pear, all are Sclerenchyma. Now here's a simple trick as to how you can differentiate between the three simple tissues in a plant. Parenchyma, soft and storing. Collenchyma, flexible and supporting. And Sclerenchyma, hard and protecting. Now let's take a look at the complex tissues. They're made up of several types of cells working as a team together. There are two types, xylem and phloem. Xylem is a plant's water pipeline. It carries water, minerals upward from the roots to the leaves. Think of a straw running through a plant and pulling water all the way to the top of a tall tree. Interestingly, xylem is made up of dead cells. Phloem is the plant's food delivery service. It carries food made in the leaves down to the rest of the plant. The phloem is made up of living cells. Together, xylem and phloem form what we call the vascular bundles, the plant's transport system. Xylem equals water up and phloem equals food to the growing regions. Here's a comparison table for xylem and phloem. A real quick reminder. Carving names into the bark of a tree can harm the tree because the phloem sits just under the bark. Before we can move into the topic of animal tissues, just to summarize, meristematic tissue is like a growing child. Its cells are constantly dividing, still growing, and haven't settled into a fixed role yet, which is what drives the plant's growth. The permanent tissue is like an adult. Those cells have stopped dividing, reached to full size, and taken on a fixed shape and job, forming the bulk of a plant's body. Now let's move on from plants to animals. The bodies of animals are built from different kinds of tissues. Based on their structure and function, animal tissues are of four basic types. Epithelial, the covering tissue. Muscular, the moving tissue. Nervous, the messaging tissue. And connective. Let's meet each one, starting with epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue forms a continuous sheet of cells that covers the external surface of a body, like your skin, and the lines of cavities of internal organs such as mouth, stomach, intestine, and windpipe. Think of it as the body's protective wrapping and inner lining. The structure of an epithelial tissues, they're packed end to end with no intercellular spaces between them. Depending on their type, they may be flat, cuboidal, or shaped like columns. It provides protection and prevents entry of germs. It also protects the underlying cells from injury, from germs, and drying up in a process called desiccation. Based on the types of cells, epithelial tissue is of four types. Squamous, a single layer of large flat cells with central nuclei sitting in the thin basement membrane. These cells look like tiles on a floor, found lining in blood vessels and inner lining of the cheek. Cuboidal, a single layer of cube-like cells in the basement membrane. An example is the salivary glands and the thyroid gland, which is lined internally by this epithelium. Columnar, these are tall cylindrical cells whose height is greater than their width, with oval nuclei near at the base. The inner lining of the intestine is a good example. Ciliated. These cells carry tiny hair-like cilia on their free surface. An example is the windpipe trachea which is internally lined with ciliated epithelial cells that sweep away dust and mucus. Connective tissue. Connective tissue is the most abundant tissue in the body. It connects, binds, supports different organs and tissues. It makes up for 30% of your total body weight. Because its whole job is joining things together, it sometimes is called as a joining tissue. Connective tissue is divided into three types: connective tissue proper, skeletal tissue, fluid or vascular tissue. Let's take a look at each one of them. Connective tissue proper. This is the most abundant type of connective tissue. It holds various tissues together inside an organ. It includes areolar tissue, the basic and most widely distributed connective tissue in the animal body. It forms a continuous layer under the skin, fills the spaces between organs, and acts as a packing material around them. It provides mechanical support and cushioning. Adipose tissue. A connective tissue specialized to store fat inside cells is called adipocytes. It is found beneath the skin and between the internal organs. It stores fat as reserve, forms shock-absorbing cushions around the organs, and helps shape the body surface, and acts as an insulating layer that keeps us warm. Tendon, a small cord-like dense fibrous tissue of great length but limited flexibility. It is made up of white fibrous connective tissue and joins muscle to the bone, helping move the bone when muscles contract and relax. Ligament, a cord-like dense fibrous tissue of considerable length and high elasticity. It is made up of yellow fibrous connective tissue and binds one bone to another, allowing bending and rotation over a joint. Skeletal tissue. Skeletal tissue is the hard connective tissue that forms the supporting framework of the body of vertebrates, the endoskeleton. It is of two types, cartilage and bone. Cartilage is a specialized connective tissue that is compact and firm but still flexible. Its matrix is a ground substance called chondrin, with the fluid spaces called lacunae. It is found in the rings of the windpipe, at the ends of the limb bones, and in the nose tip, the ear, the pinna, the epiglottis, and the lower end of the ribs. It gives support and provides elasticity to these soft tissues. Bone. This connective tissue, forming a rigid skeleton of the body. Its matrix is made out of protein osin hardened by inorganic salts like calcium phosphate, calcium carbonate, and magnesium phosphate, which makes the bone strong and hard. Long bones are usually hollow, with a marrow cavity where red and white blood cells are made. Bone forms the rigid endoskeleton, protects the organs like the brain, heart, and lungs, and serves as a reservoir for calcium and phosphorus, and works as a system of levers for movement. Fluid or vascular tissue. This is the fluid tissue that keeps moving throughout the body, transporting materials such as nutrients, waste, hormones, and gases, and helping maintain the body temperature. It is of two types, blood and lymph. Blood is a red, sticky, slightly salty fluid connective tissue that is heavier than water. Its ground substance is a straw-colored fluid called plasma, in which float three kinds of cells: red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Its main job is to transport substances around the body. Platelets promote clotting, help wound healing, while WBCs provide immunity by producing antibodies. And here's an answer to one of our opening questions. Blood is a tissue because its cells share a common origin and function, even though it flows like a liquid. Lymph, a colorless or pale yellow fluid like blood plasma without the RBCs and large proteins. It carries nutrients and hormones, acts as a middleman between the blood and the tissues, brings carbon dioxide and waste from tissues back to the blood, and helps protect the body against infections. Now let's move on to muscular tissue. Muscular tissue is a contractile tissue that can shorten and lengthen to produce movement. It holds contractile proteins inside long cells called as muscle fibers, bound together by connective tissues. It makes up for nearly 40% of your body weight and is found in every part of your body where movement takes place. There are three types based on the structure, function, and location. Striated muscle, long cylindrical non-tapering fibers that run parallel and do not branch, showing alternate dark and light bands. These are multinucleate, attached to bones and work under your conscious will. For example, moving your limbs, face, neck, tongue, and diaphragm. Smooth muscle, spindle-shaped, unbranched fibers with a single central nucleus and no bands, found in the walls of the stomach, intestine, blood vessels, urinary bladder, and the iris of the eye. They work automatically, producing the wave-like squeezing that pushes food throughout your gut. Cardiac muscle, cylindrical, branched fibers found only in the wall of the heart. They are shorter than skeletal fibers and involuntary, working continuously without rest to pump blood throughout your whole life. Nervous tissue. Nervous tissue is highly specialized tissue that carries messages or impulses around the body. Its basic unit cells, called as neurons or nerve cells. A neuron is made up of three parts: a cyton, which is a cell body or the central nucleus; dendrites, short branching processes arising from the cyton that receive impulses and carry them towards the cell body; the axon, a single long cylindrical fiber that extends from the cyton and carries impulses away from the cell body. The nervous tissue is concentrated in the brain and the spinal cord. It is specialized to receive stimuli and rapidly transmit impulses from one part of the body to the other. In a way, it controls all the body activities and coordinates the functioning of different parts of the body. And that's a wrap. We've covered a lot in this session. So let's quickly revise everything that we learned. We started by understanding that a tissue is a group of similar cells with a common origin that perform a common function. The study of tissues is called histology. We saw the different types of tissues, whether it's plant tissues or animal tissues. Plant tissues are of two main types: meristematic tissue or a permanent tissue. Meristematic tissue is like a child which is just growing. Permanent tissue is like an adult which has already grown to its max. Animal tissues are of four types: epithelial, connective, muscular, and nervous. We also learnt about tendons, ligaments, xylem and phloem, bone and cartilage. Now, every time you see a tree bending in the wind, feel your heartbeat, or heal a small cut, try to identify which tissue is doing your work. You'll soon realize that biology isn't just a subject in a textbook. It's teamwork happening inside of every living thing around you every single day. Now here's a challenge for you. Look around your home, garden, your own body, and identify 5 examples of tissues. What kind of tissue you think it is? Where is it found? And why do you think it belongs to that particular type? Share your answers with your friends or teachers and see who can find the most interesting examples. And also, do send me your answers via the comment section. I would love to hear them. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Before you go, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. See you in the next one.